This year's most intriguing Korean suspense piece, under the lead of a Chinese goddess, it gained immense popularity. After watching this story, you'll come to understand just how dangerous a captivating woman can be. In the interrogation room of a Korean police station, she delicately lifts her skirt, wanting to show the bruises on her leg from being grabbed. The police say they need to take pictures for the record. She confidently adjusts her pose to cooperate. As the police officer raises the camera from a distance, she playfully signals for him to come closer. Yet, when their eyes meet, she shyly looks away like a bashful rabbit. During questioning, her expression reveals no emotions, just an occasional hint of a smile. This beautiful and enigmatic woman, even the police officer can't help but be captivated by her. He even treats her to the most expensive sushi out of his own pocket. Haijun constantly reminds himself, he must stay alert, not to be deceived by her surface. After all, the woman before him is a suspect in the murder of her own husband. Just a few days ago, a man who was hiking accidentally fell from a mountain peak, dying on the spot. The police initially ruled it as an accident, but when the man's wife comes to identify the body, Haijun suddenly realizes things might not be that simple. The man's wife is named RuiLai, a genuine Chinese woman. Seeing her husband's death scene, she doesn't cry or make a fuss. She can even laugh during conversations. As the investigation deepens, Haijun discovers large bruises on her body, clearly signs of habitual domestic abuse from her husband. Moreover, the husband displayed a twisted sense of control. His personal belongings all had his distinctive mark, even on his wife's body. He didn't hold back. Though RuiLai has a clear motive to kill, she also possesses a perfect alibi. She's a private nurse, and on the day of the incident, she was caring for a paralyzed old man. The nursing center can vouch for her, because that day, she made a call from the old man's phone. She's professional and compassionate in her work. All the elderly she cared for speak highly of her. Just then, a new clue emerges. RuiLai's DNA is found under the man's fingernails, seemingly suggesting a conflict before the incident. Faced with Haijun's questioning armed with evidence, RuiLai remains composed and imparts a Chinese lesson to him. Despite the assistance of translation software, Haijun still couldn't quite grasp the exact meaning. After all, such profound Chinese isn't something ordinary folks can comprehend. RuiLai didn't want to make it too difficult. She straightforwardly explained that she found mountain climbing too dangerous. Thus, she advised her husband not to go anymore. But her husband didn't listen. Not only did they argue, he even accidentally cut his hand during the dispute. Although a slight doubt lingers in Haijun's mind, RuiLai's explanation seems perfectly reasonable. For now, he can only release her. Subsequently, Haijun hides in the shadows every day, observing RuiLai's every move. He discovers that RuiLai lives a simple life, routine and predictable. When not working, she reads alone, occasionally feeding stray cats on the roadside. One day, in gratitude, a cat brings her a dead crow. RuiLai carefully buries the crow, and her gaze towards the cat is incredibly tender. Hearing these words from RuiLai's mouth, Haijun couldn't help but burst into laughter. He's completely enchanted by this mysterious woman, feeling as though he's right beside her, catching her falling cigarette ashes, breathing in her unique aroma. Early one morning, RuiLai spots Haijun sleeping in his car. A simple greeting marks the beginning of a new day for Haijun. He's been plagued by insomnia for days, yet the nights he spends under RuiLai's building, he sleeps like a baby. Even at the police station, he unconsciously mimics RuiLai's way of greeting. However, moments of happiness are always short-lived. An unexpected message arrives, yanking Haijun back to reality. Just as he's about to deal with a case of accidental male death, a dreadful document appears before him. It turns out RuiLai has been suspected of murder for a long time. Once she's sent back to her home country, at the very least, she'll face a life sentence because she once killed her own mother with her own hands. After much hesitation, Haijun sends the document to RuiLai, demanding an explanation. RuiLai straightforwardly responds with, "Come to my place." Growing increasingly curious about this woman, Haijun accelerates recklessly, even taking a moment to hurriedly shave his beard. Witnessing Haijun's urgent arrival, RuiLai doesn't beat around the bush. In the past, her mother couldn't bear the agony of illness any longer, begging RuiLai to help end her suffering. RuiLai became a nurse to care for her mother, but fate had her use her skills to end her mother's pain. The pact between mother and daughter hardly qualifies as murder. As for the husband who died from falling off a cliff, RuiLai presents new evidence, material indicating her husband's impending deportation due to embezzlement, and a suicide note, enough to prove his intentions. Although Haijun remains somewhat skeptical, driven by his own desires, he doesn't continue the investigation. Instead, he hands the suicide note to his superiors, and the case is finally resolved. To celebrate RuiLai's relief from suspicion, Haijun personally cooks a plate of scrambled eggs for her. Their small room fills with a sense of warmth and festivity. Both of them wear unprecedented smiles on their faces. In this moment, RuiLai resembles a little girl enveloped in happiness, enjoying the subtle gestures of this man's devotion, learning Chinese cuisine and Mandarin for her. During moments of extreme joy or sorrow, people often look up at the sky. However, when RuiLai pulls back the curtains, the view outside startles her, causing her to retreat. Haijun explains that he's seen too much gore, leading to his insomnia that persists to this day. He unreservedly recounts these unresolved cases to RuiLai. At this point, RuiLai exclaims, "Isn't that nonsense?" She believes that with so many eyes staring at the walls day and night, who wouldn't have insomnia? Without further ado, she tears down all the photos on the wall and proceeds to burn them all. She instructs Haijun to lie down and close his eyes. With RuiLai's unique hypnotic technique, Haijun swiftly drifts into slumber. After a night passes, their relationship rapidly develops. They spend each day in a romantic and heartwarming manner. Sometimes, Haijun helps RuiLai care for elderly people in need. However, one day, Haijun notices something peculiar. An old man's phone is identical to RuiLai's. What's even more astonishing is the data from the fitness app. The old man climbed 138 floors in one go, on the same day RuiLai's husband died. Since the old man has been paralyzed for years, he can't possibly climb. Suddenly, a chilling thought emerges in Haijun's mind. In order to confirm his suspicion, Haijun stages a simulated crime using the phone. He starts the experiment from the time RuiLai enters the complex, swapping phones and escaping through the rear window to evade surveillance. He realizes there are only 2 routes to the mountaintop and, to avoid her husband's gaze, she would choose the more challenging path. Without protective ropes, a single misstep would lead to her demise. RuiLai struggles for survival within the cliff's crevices, while her husband, engrossed in rock climbing, remains unaware of her proximity. Haijun risks his life to finally reach the mountaintop. At the sight of the fitness record, he breaks down. Exactly 138 floors, no more, no less. The perpetrator who killed RuiLai's husband is RuiLai herself. Heartbroken by the truth he uncovers, Haijun confronts RuiLai, questioning why she lied. RuiLai confesses everything to him. Holding Haijun tightly, she admits to the murder, but also affirms her genuine feelings for him. No one can fathom the turmoil within Haijun, a man of lifelong righteousness, but unable to escape the trap of emotions. He repeatedly urges RuiLai to dispose of the sole internal evidence by throwing it into the sea, never to be discovered by others. Their brief happiness dissipates in an instant, and the two part ways. A year later, Haijun and his wife move to a small town, thinking time could diminish everything. However, one day while shopping with his wife, Haijun once again spots that familiar figure. Reuniting after a long separation, RuiLai now has a new husband by her side. Unleashing the emotions he had suppressed for so long, Haijun's feelings surge forth at this moment. They gaze deeply into each other's eyes, conveying all the yearning of the past year. What Haijun doesn't know is that, in countless unseen corners, RuiLai had done everything she could just to catch a glimpse of him. But all of this is still not enough. The next day, Haijun receives a murder case. A man stabbed 17 times, found dead in his own swimming pool. Seeing the victim, Haijun freezes in shock, because he just saw this man yesterday. He's RuiLai's current husband. Haijun dares not think, is this RuiLai's tactic again? He firmly decides within himself, this time, he won't let her slip away. In the interrogation room, Haijun is cold, sharp, and ruthless. Compared to last time, he seems like a different person. Looking at the familiar yet unfamiliar man before her, RuiLai's eyes reveal her unmistakable disappointment. She never anticipated that the Haijun she reunited with after a long separation would treat her with such indifference. RuiLai's alibi seems reasonable. She was walking by the seaside when the incident occurred. Though she didn't have her phone to verify her exact location, a passerby captured her image, which shows her standing alone by the shore, one hand raised high, as if throwing something into the air. At this moment, Haijun notices a detail. In the photo, RuiLai wears a blue dress, but during the interrogation, she's wearing a black dress. What could have compelled her to change her clothes after witnessing her husband's murder, and before reporting it? This question resonates with Haijun, who's already decided RuiLai is guilty. He is merely seeking solid evidence to confirm it. Without hesitation, he rushes to RuiLai's home, demanding to know where she's hidden the blue dress. RuiLai has no intention of concealing the truth from him. She explains that she burned the dress. After returning from her walk, she discovered her husband dead in the pool. Knowing Haijun would inevitably take charge of the case, she was concerned that the gruesome scene would cause him insomnia again. Therefore, before reporting the incident, she drained the pool of blood, removing all visible traces. That's why she couldn't keep the blood-stained dress. Unaffected by her explanation, Haijun immediately charges her with tampering with the crime scene. RuiLai insists she is not the killer. A lie detector test confirms her truthfulness. Still, Haijun remains skeptical of her innocence, until his subordinates bring a new piece of information. RuiLai's current husband was no saint, but a con artist who swindled an old lady's entire savings recently. The old lady passed away in the hospital a day ago. Her son, seeking justice, turns himself in, vowing to avenge his mother's plight. While his team is joyous over the solved case, Haijun can't let go of his suspicions. To him, even if RuiLai didn't physically murder her husband, she still seems involved in the matter. Driven by obsession, he relentlessly investigates. Eventually, he discovers that her husband's cell phone signal was detected by the sea at the time when the husband was killed. After numerous simulations and validations, Haijun concludes that RuiLai must have thrown the phone into the sea. The motive behind this action baffles him. Back in his car, Haijun listens to the audio recordings on RuiLai's watch, hoping to find clues. However, he realizes that the recordings consist of RuiLai's words addressed to him. Every sentence conveys a tone as if Haijun has always been with her, as if they've never been separated. The familiar sensation lures Haijun into a long-forgotten warmth. Yet, RuiLai has already plunged into despair. A person already convicted. What more can she do to prove her innocence? A year ago, RuiLai killed her abusive ex-husband, and Haijun confronted her with evidence from his phone. Cautioning her, Haijun advised her to destroy the evidence. From that day on, they would never cross paths again. After Haijun's departure, the audio recording became RuiLai's sole solace. She would occasionally listen to it, finding comfort in the familiarity of his voice. However, her current husband discovered the recording. Learning about their relationship, he threatened to expose the recording online. Aiming to protect Haijun's reputation and honor, RuiLai conceived a dangerous plan. The old lady's son had harbored a grudge against her husband for some time. He waited for the old lady's death, knowing his son would act. Knowing the old lady couldn't endure her suffering any longer, she repeatedly asked RuiLai to help her die with dignity. This time, RuiLai granted her wish, and the next day, her son killed her husband. RuiLai understood this was her chance to reunite with Haijun, but his behavior was unexpected. No matter what she did, she couldn't earn his trust. She lured Haijun to a remote mountain, and as she approached him, Haijun stood alone on the dark cliff's edge, listening to her footsteps draw closer, slowly closing his eyes. At this moment, the outcome of their emotions is clear. Haijun unexpectedly worries that RuiLai might hurt him like she harmed her ex-husband. But even with these fears, he willingly exposes his back to her. RuiLai hands the phone containing evidence of her husband's murder to Haijun, urging him to reopen the investigation into her ex-husband's fall from the cliff. Perhaps only then will he be able to release the burden from his heart. Haijun didn't understand the meaning of these words until he retrieved RuiLai's husband's phone from the sea. Only then did he finally comprehend everything. He frantically called RuiLai, but she, feeling disheartened and hopeless, had already made up her mind to break up. RuiLai decisively ended the call, gazing at the infinitely beautiful sunset and the sea in the distance. She smiled softly to herself, realizing that it was time to bring closure to this relationship. She dug a large hole on the beach, quietly awaiting the sea to swallow her. By the time Haijun arrived, the tide had already begun to rise. Frantically searching for RuiLai on the beach, he overlooked the pit right beside him. In despair, he played the recorded conversation. He had never fully understood why RuiLai was so insistent that he had once said he loved her. Only now did he finally recognize the truth about his own heart. However, it was too late for everything. He could only loosen his tie his shoelaces, and call out RuiLai's name over and over again on the beach.